Here is a little overview of how to do this 3D letters worksheet. And the key here is that these are not letters. They're just a bunch of shapes that have corners, outside corners, inside corners, and as well as some curves. And in this worksheet, a vanishing point has already been provided. So we're going to treat it sort of like the shape sheet we've already done before. And how about we just start, we'll start with the L over here. So basically, we've got a straight edge and a pencil, and you can use a ruler or anything that has a straight edge. And any corner that has a path to the vanishing point, I'm going to connect. Now what I do is when I like to put my pencil on the corner and then pivot the straight edge till I get to the vanishing point, and then shift my weight down onto the straight edge, and hold my pencil light as a feather, so that I can draw a light line, it doesn't move my straight edge, and I can erase much of this line that I don't want later. So now I'm just going to evaluate each corner. Here's an inside corner right here on the L. I'll aim that to the vanishing point, and it does show up just a little bit. And then this corner here. That is a big fat vanishing point, so try to aim for the very center of it. That's my recommendation. And then we have one more right here. Now, this corner, if I aimed it, I'd have to go through the L, which means if this is a solid object, I would not actually see that, so I'm not going to draw it. And it's the same thing with this corner here. I would have to go through the L, and I don't want to see that, so I'm going to ignore those. If I was ever creating something where I wanted it to seem transparent, I might draw them though. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the E, so this corner right here, a little bit shows. And then we've got right here, there we go, and this corner. So this is not an E, it's just a weird shape with lots of corners. Now let's look at these corners in here. This corner here, nope, I would have to go through it, but this corner, what I'm going to do is underlap and just stop it right there. Now this part of this corner here, it hits the T. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and just underlap and stop it right there, because I know that this T is going to do that, and it's going to hide all this. Another E that I'll underlap, another corner here that I'll underlap, and then this corner here I'm going to underlap. I've already done this part of the T, so now I will graduate over to here. So hopefully you are seeing the system. The key is that we are using the same vanishing point for all these shapes. And then this T here is right under the vanishing point. So really there's not much happening here. I can see the top of the T like this, but this corner I don't need to do, or this one. And then this corner, nope. And nope, I don't see anything, so that T's done just with that. Now I'll go ahead and keep moving around. And right here we have an underlap about right there. Then we have this corner. And now we have the same situation, but instead of these corners, we're looking at this. So it's the same situation as the E over here, but since I'm on the other side of the vanishing point, it changes. And now my underlap looks like this. Okay. All right, so now we're at the R, and this R has curves and it has corners, and we're going to address both. So we learned about curves by, on the other worksheet a little bit. So if I put my pencil on the straight edge and then I pivot like this, I'm going to pivot till I hit the curve of the R, up right there. So that's the part that goes to the vanishing point. Now I have a corner right here, and then I have a corner right here, so all corners get addressed. And it's just going to barely be there. It's going to just ever so slightly show up. If you have a mechanical pencil, that would be good, or a sharp pencil. Now this corner here, we'll have an underlap right there behind the E. And now we need to check these other spots. Here's a corner, and it's going to underlap, oops, it's going to underlap behind itself. This corner's good, and I believe this corner's good too. So there's no corners on the inside of the R, but we'll address that when we do the cutoff lines. Okay, so now let's look at the S, another curve right here. And now let's look for other areas. Here's a corner. This far corner over here, it happens to just line up, so nope, don't need to draw that. Here's another curve down here, so pivot till I hit the bottom of the S. There we go. And then, let's see what else we've got going on. We've got some action over here. So here's a corner to the vanishing point, I will underlap. Here's another corner to the vanishing point, and I'll underlap. And there's just a little sliver of activity visible to us. Okay. All right, I'm going to do the 3 and the D, but let's talk about cutting off all these. So how about I'll start right here in the middle with the T. This is the super easy one. Remember, your cutoff lines, if I don't want the T to go on forever, the cutoff line needs to be parallel to its front corresponding edge. So as long as my straight edge, if I could cut it off here or I could cut it off close, I'll go about right there. I just need to be parallel to this line, and I can go from there to there, and that's a cutoff line. Okay, now how about I go to the left here? I'm going to start at about the same place. So on the T, I'm going to go there to there, parallel to this line, but then this has to be parallel to right here. Hopefully you can see through my straight edge, or you could turn your straight edge around like this, like that. Okay, now I need to do this cutoff back here, and you could take your best guess. I'm going to erase this a little bit so you get an idea. Okay, there is an actual realistic way to determine exactly where this goes. If this corner went to the vanishing point, and you could see that line like that, and then this were to track over to like right there, then that's technically the spot where I could skip down here and put in this cutoff. Technically, that's exactly where it would go. We're kind of in a beginner stage, so if you kind of guessed at it a little bit, that'd be okay. But I'm pretty sure that that's accurate based on that logic that I just showed you right there. Okay, how about the E? You know what would be cool is this, all these lines line up to each other. So what I could do is I can put my straight edge parallel to the E there, and then just draw each one of these in line with each other. And what that does is if I put my pencil here, that gives me this top cutoff line there to there that's parallel to here, and then I can put my pencil here. I need to be parallel to this, and then I can put my pencil right there parallel to this, and then this would just go up and up parallel to those. So that E is a little bit more fun than the other ones for sure, but the logic of it is consistent. Okay, so let's look at the L. Where do I want to cut that off? This would be the easiest place to start, so I can make maybe a cutoff line parallel to that. You can see through my straight edge, so from there to there. Now, believe it or not, from this corner right there, technically, there's a sliver. Whoa, that's far. Maybe I'm a little off. Let me just double check. All right, we'll go about, that looks about right. You can see how just the slightest little imperfection can completely change your design. So I made a slight adjustment. There's just a little bit of a sliver there. And now I can erase all these leftover orthogonal lines that I don't want. I think in the demonstration sample that comes in your packet, all the lines were left in there. If you want to leave them in there, you can leave them in there. But maybe you don't want to leave them in there. Maybe you want to erase them like I do. But for the sake of time, I'm going to actually keep working around to the right. So, you know, this E sort of lines up with that T. So I'm going to go line up to this part of the T and skip over and let that be my cutoff. And then, there we go. We got some people talking in the background. There we go. And then this line comes down parallel to that. Now, I think this will just stay that way right here. I don't think I need to put any cutoffs there. Let me bold this line. And then let's play around with the R. So how about if I want to cut off the R, say here, I'll go parallel to this, but then this spot has to be parallel to this a little bit right there. And then this is a curve, so I want to mimic the curve for that cutoff. Now, what could happen here is, right in here is a little weird. So if I come in here and I aim it that way, I feel like right about here, there's going to be a cutoff in there. There we go. That looks kind of natural, so just do your best there. You might have to fake it a little bit. Okay, now let's look at the crazy S over here. This needs to be mimicking this curve. So this is a complete like half circle type curve, so I really want to think of it as that same half circle type curve. Now, what would happen though if this were an S? This would come up, and then right about here is sort of where it would catch up, right? And then this would come down, and then right about here, this is parallel to that. So you have to kind of envision the whole S back there in order to get it all to line up. It's a little bit more advanced, but I think you can handle it. Okay, so I can erase the rest of this, but I want to move forward and I don't want to shake the camera too much. So let's do the D. The D is not a D, it's just a shape. There's a curve right here. There's a curve or corner right here. And basically do the front stuff first and then work your way back so you can have underlaps. But let's just address each corner. There's an inside corner over here. This one would do that. So I think that that's all we need for the D. Let's go ahead and start a cutoff. So if I were to look at here, this line could be the cutoff. I'm going to make sure I'm a little straighter. Yep, parallel to that. And then this line does this. So then from here, I need to mimic that. So just as this is almost like a 90-degree angle, kind of a curve there, I want to get that same bit there. Now from here, I'm going to go parallel to this long line and just go straight down. And then that's it for that spot. I actually don't need any of these other orthogonal lines. And then what I'll attempt to do is get about the same distance here. And then I want this curve to mimic that curve. Okay, so what about in here? Well, just as this line kind of continues this path, I'm going to look at this line. What would it do if it continued the path? It'd probably show up about here. So what I'll try to do is mimic that same path, and I think it'll just sort of, there we go, it'll just sort of come down here. And then notice how I made a mistake and just sort of restated the line. That's how you can fix mistakes. There we go. So I think that's oops, sorry about that. I got butterfingers right now. I think that does it. So if you do it and it looks a little weird, just figure out what little adjustment needs to happen so it looks more natural. Because what we're trying to do is create the illusion of rational positioning. Okay, now let's do the 3. It's got some curves. Now I'm not going to go from this corner because I'd have to go through the 3, but I am going to go through this outer curve right here. And then let's skip over to this curve right here. And now let's address any underlapping ones. So this corner right here to the vanishing point, and I'll underlap. This corner, we can underlap, and then this corner, we'll do that. Oh, and then this corner, can underlap. So that 3 is done except for the cutoffs. So what I can do, I'll just start here. And again, I want to mimic. Note I'm not pressing hard. The key is barely touch the paper and just sort of dance the pencil back and forth. Now just as this sort of, it does that sort of 3 shape, I have to pretend this one would follow through to about here and then continue, and it's probably going to show up right about there. Okay? And just as this line sort of goes there, then this line would come through, and then it would probably show up about here, and that tells me this bit here. Let's go ahead and erase. And I'll just go ahead and estimate that this goes about here. Notice I'm not using my ruler. It's kind of a small line. I think I can handle that without the ruler. And then from here, just as this goes up, this sort of come up this way. And in theory, it's catching up to this, you see? So this is just a number 3, but it's got definitely has some sophistication going on here, doesn't it? Okay, and then we have this bit here. It probably just has a little bit of a hook right here. There we go. All right, so other than just maybe some erasing that I would have left to do, this is how you complete the assignment.